Hey guys, welcome back to the Made Men podcast. This is David Sloan, your host, and I'm with Adam Carroll, my co-host. And today we have a very special guest, Olivier Ménard. Hey Olivier, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, so as Dave said, my name is Olivier Ménard, and I'm 18 years old. I play varsity soccer for the University of New Brunswick here in Canada, in Fredericton.
Yeah,
And yeah, I've been vegan for almost 5 years now, and really excited to be on your episode today.
yeah. So we're, as you said there, you play varsity soccer. You know, for all of our listeners out there, we're not onto that varsity soccer game, but we will be talking about veganism. We'll be talking about how it is to be a vegan in 2021. What are the challenges? What are the ups and downs along your career as a vegan athlete as well? Um, and then we'll see wherever that takes us, because I know you are into your old climate change and your activism. Um, so, yeah, Adam, what are your thoughts on veganism, first of all? How vegans, the whole
Well,
idea? What are you thinking?
when I was younger and I first got into the gym, so around 16, I suppose, 17, I got big into the gym. And, you'd always hear the trends of like, oh, vegans, oh, CrossFit vegans, you know what I mean? There's always like a stigma behind vegans.
Yeah.
And myself, like, I always just thought, oh, you're just being a bit extra vegan. But as you start, doing your bit of research and that, you kind of understand, all right, I actually respect people who are vegans because, I'm a big animal lover. Like, so hearing someone that's, trying to do right by animals' rights and stuff, it's fucking class. I think I've nothing against veganism. I feel for myself why I'm not a vegan is because I don't think I'd be able to do it. I think it would be too tough, and especially for my kind of lifestyle, I don't think I'd have the time to like plan out a meal and stuff. I enjoy steak, I enjoy chicken and whatever. Every day I'd probably have some form of meat in my diet. But no, I think I'd struggle as well with sport. 100% with sport. You like, or the gym. The gym and soccer, like, or football, whatever. Yeah, I feel it would.
Soccer.
Yeah, I know I say soccer a bit, but
Canadian
I think
soccer.
I'd find it. I think I'd find it too challenging personally. I never tried it myself, so maybe that's a bit of a cop out to say. But for me, I just feel it's easy just to throw chicken on the oven, chicken stir fry, bang, done.
Bang,
But
bada bing, bada boom.
that's just me though. But no, I think I'd find it too hard. But I'd like to hear Olivier's side of things on how he finds it, and that's why I thought it was a great idea to get Olivier on for this podcast. And also,
Oh, it was your idea, was it?
I
Yeah.
think it was a great idea.
Oh,
I
yeah.
never said mine.
Yeah.
And geez. And no, I think it's a really cool thing to follow, especially this day and age as well with climate change and that, which is something we're going to speak about anyways. But
Yeah, Olivier, why don't you give us a backstory on like when you decided to be a vegan? What made you decide to jump, and basically the journey and how you've kind of become one?
plunged into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, at first, it was actually my sister's idea. She brought it up at dinner one night, and she was just like, why don't we do 1 week where we're just gonna have vegetarian meals, one week per month. And that was like the whole idea, just to try it out, see what it would be like to just eat vegetarian, um and like what what we would feel was different, like how we would feel different, physically, because me and my sister, we were both really into sports. She was doing gymnastics, and I was really into football.
Soccer, Canadian varsity soccer. I'm gonna do that every single time you say the word, just so you know. But go on, continue.
But yeah, so it was just like, I guess she did more research about it and probably heard about it in her science classes at school. And at the time, I think I was in grade seven or eight.
Which is what, 14, 13?
Yeah, around that.
First
Um,
year.
12,
Yeah.
12, I think. Yeah, 12, 13.
12. Yeah,
Yeah.
so first year,
First or sixth class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my parents didn't want to do it. obviously they both grew up in a background eating meat growing up. I think my grandpa on my dad's side owned a farm years ago. So like
Also, like your parents are, military background, your dad's an animal, like literally. So like of course he's not going to be like, what, vegans, what, we're in the military, we eat meat like raw. So no, I know what you mean.
yeah, at the time it was just like it kind of seemed like an extreme idea. It was like we put them in a category like extremist, and it was just alien from what we knew. And when my parents didn't want to do it anymore, then my sister kind of backed out of the idea. um, but then I noticed that I was reading books, and then the idea of like vegetarianism and like veganism was popping up more and more often. So then I did more research, and I remember in class we watched this documentary. It was Before the Flood by Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was just talking more and more about like veganism and just eating more plant based in general. So after doing more research, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it, and since then I haven't gone back. So I went vegetarian, I think in at 12, and then a few years after that, when I moved to Ottawa, because again my parents are in the military, so we moved every few years. So when I moved to Ottawa, then there's these two vegan girls in my class, and then they were just talking to me about how
Of
like
course, girls, like.
why I was vegetarian and not vegan. Had like conversations about it. They gave me like documentaries to watch, and then after that I kind of made up my mind about.
And of course you watched them because they were two girls and you were new to the school.
Yeah, you like
Yeah.
yeah,
You got to do what you got to do.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I know the grind.
Shut
So,
up.
so yeah, so you basically were a vegetarian first, and then you decided, full send, we just hit the vegan lifestyle. And
Yeah.
do you think the jump from vegetarian to veganism is a huge one? Because people might think, oh, like being a vegetarian, oh, it might be easy to just be a vegan then, but is it difficult? Is it a bigger jump than you would think?
From vegetarian to vegan?
Yeah.
Personally, it wasn't that bad, because already as a vegetarian, I was already on soy milk. Like I think maybe I'm lactose intolerant, but every time I ate dairy, I was like, it didn't really sit well with me.
Mm.
So I already was drinking soy milk, so that was like something I already made the transition towards. So then all that was left for me was like eggs, and I think it was pretty much it. When I went vegan, it was basically just cutting out eggs, and like eggs was a big staple in a lot of people's diets in general.
Mm.
Like post workout, you just cook a few eggs, and it's just like
Like Rocky Balboa, but cracking it into a thing, whisking it over, knock it back.
yeah, it's easy, but definitely I can see how going straight from just the typical diet to veganism can be a big and scary jump. You just like it's a big review of your diet and like what you're eating and your habits. So it can definitely be scary, but for me personally, it wasn't that bad.
And what are the benefits for you personally?
Yeah, I think the biggest one would be recovery.
Really?
That's very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Adam's there licking his lips. Mm.
No, that is very interesting to hear.
Very interesting. Go on, continue.
like training and gym, like I just remember always showing up to practice or showing up to training when we would have double days. Sometimes we had you remember we would walk from the gym straight to training.
Yeah.
Sometimes in Ottawa, and like
Animals. Yeah.
Like when you have your teammates just complaining about how their muscles hurt and stuff, and I'm just there like I'm ready to go.
But that's because you were taking HRT on the side as well.
Oh, honestly, like I would definitely say recovery, because just I got tired after training and after the gym, but then the next day you just wake up and you're ready to go again. So I would definitely say that's the biggest thing.
And would you say you're very limited in what you have? Would you say you eat the same thing every day?
Well, that's more of like a convenient thing for me.
Okay.
Time management wise, I meal prep, so I'll
Ah.
make like my menu for the week, and then I'll just prep it on the Sunday. And
What
then
is it? Run,
Yeah.
run through your menu. Let's go. All right. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks every single day, 5 days, 7 days a week. Go.
Breakfast, I like my oats, so
Woo!
so like oatmeal. I don't know if do you call it porridge?
Yeah,
Porridge.
porridge. Porridge. We have a nice bowl of porridge there. We throw a bit of milk into it and a bit of sugar, and we down the half then.
Yeah, so nice little bowl of oats, with like bananas. Sometimes if you have like protein powder, if you want to put some, you can add that in to make protein oats, with bananas. And then for lunch I like to make like salads, so quinoa salads, couscous salads, with a lot of like beans, legumes, stuff like that. And then for dinner, honestly, it varies. So this week I made stir fry, so tofu stir fry with rice, super simple. And sometimes I make curry, tacos, fajitas. Like honestly,
But no chicken in any of them.
Yeah, that's so strange.
Like that's giving me a bit of a twitch. Like fajitas with no chicken. What? But no, like what about snacks then? Like the way like everyone will grab something in a shop or when they're out
Yeah,
or whatever. Like
that's
how does
tough.
that affect you with convenience?
Yeah, snacks. I mean, like fruits are always pretty easy. Grab an apple or a pear or whatever, and then nuts and seeds are also really good. I really love dates as well, like
He's like Joe Delaney, Adam. He's
Yeah,
on,
Joe Laney with the
he's
dates.
on the date game.
Yeah.
I actually, but it's like I don't know. It's once you start doing it, it doesn't seem as hard as at first.
It's like
Right.
cold showers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You do
Do
that too.
you have cold showers?
Yeah.
he's a joke. Like he's such the type to see the
He just
proper
watched
like
a YouTube video there
yeah
one day.
YouTube video of your man Hustle, whatever his name is. What's your
Yeah.
man?
I know.
What's his name?
Wim Hof. The
Yeah,
idea-
Wim
Oh, Wim
Hof.
Hof. Oh, he's a legend. I actually enjoy
Yeah,
watching it.
you definitely watched his video and you were like,
I'm inspired.
you know what, I'm gonna do it.
Actually funny because in grade 9, my science teacher, the Secret Santa things.
Mm.
My science teacher picked me, and he got me the book, like Wim Hof, the Wim Hof method. That was really cool.
Your science teacher
crazy.
got you a Wim Hof book. Fuck it. I wouldn't know
Come
what to
here.
get off my teachers.
Listen, that's again about like
Oh.
education, bringing it back to education. Like he's got Secret Santa with his teacher, and he's getting him like a book
That's
that's
good,
actually
yeah.
good. Like imagine you got some. Well, I'm not going to throw names on it just in case I get
Yeah.
some expelled there next
Maybe
week.
cancelled.
But but imagine let's pick a teacher. I'm sure you can pick one in your head, Adam. Who
Yeah.
wouldn't be the greatest one. And you're like, what are you gonna get me from my Secret Santa? Like, come on.
Yeah. No, I get you. That's like foreign to me. Like that's very strange. Like different to me. Like
Yeah.
and just hearing it's very interesting hearing about like how he said recovery is the most like what he noticed the most. And I think I'd nearly disagree with, like, you would think, wouldn't you, like for yourself, best thing after training or a match, have a fucking protein shake, yeah, whatever. But like for a meal, I mean, you'd have your dinner
Steak.
or whatever, steak, chicken, anything, and you just the next day you feel grand. Well, not too bad, but yeah, it's I think it's something worth trying, definitely, even for like a couple of days, because yeah, see the thing.
Whoa, did you say couple of days?
Well, you like try it for a week or so. Like I don't think I'd be able to do much more than that. Well, fuck it, you never. It might,
Not yet. Like you don't know.
But, see, my problem with veganism isn't so much what it is. It's more the
culture.
kind of, yeah, exactly. The people
Yeah.
behind it. Like the game changer now for me was the biggest load of waffle. No, not in a negative way. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's as if
No. Go on.
was-
Go on. Yeah.
It was complete propaganda, I thought. I felt
All right, Stalin. All right, go on.
it was a lot of propaganda. It was a lot to, saying, oh, these vegan athletes aren't just very good, but they're excelling more because they're vegans. I take that with a pinch of salt. Like, you know what I mean? There was like a strongman on it who's a vegan.
Are you on about the Game Changer documentary?
Yeah, the Game Changer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's you watch that and it's I felt it was quite misleading with what it was saying. In the documentary. Have you seen it, Olivier? Yeah.
Yeah. I have.
What are your thoughts?
That's his Bible. What do you want about? Of course, he's seen it.
What's your take on it? What do you think from a non-biased point of view? Like I know you're a vegan lover and that, but if you were
Olivier is he's an educated lad. Stick in the middle now. Like I know you're gonna be like, oh, hit over that side, but
Yeah, no, but honestly, I thought it was interesting though the point you brought out of like the documentary being propaganda for veganism.
Yeah.
Because I think it's interesting in our everyday life how often we see these commercials. Like growing up, you just see the kid coming back from practice and it's like, oh, get your glass of chocolate milk after training, and that'll help you recover. You'll have like strong bones and stuff like that. And there's all like these preconceived ideas about like all these animal products that you need growing up as a child, to be healthy.
And where if sorry to cut you off, but that if I'm just thinking there, like what's one of the biggest markets or kind of systems in the world economically? It's farming and exporting and importing farms. So what are they going to be pushing? They're going to be getting people to drink more of milk, eat more meat, red meat, and push that like.
Yeah. So obviously, like the documentary is obviously going to promote it to the other extreme to show that obviously they're not just going to show like regular people going about their lives in normal day. They also want to have that wow factor to promote veganism in a positive way. So I think that's kind of what they were trying to do, go against maybe all of the preconceived ideas people have in society, like not necessarily against veganism, but trying to push the boundaries of what people think are possible on a vegan diet. So that's what I viewed it as.
Yeah, see, it's interesting because you're coming from that side, and like I'm not anti-vegan or anything. Like as I said before, I respect people who are doing it and that, but just watching it and seeing like all these athletes, I'm sure if I pulled up a quote or two, like they're very saying like you need a like it's near like a everyone needs to do it. It's kind of like this it will change your life forever kind of a thing. That's what I kind of took away from it a lot, was it was making out like it was cream of the crop.
It was a bit Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit Hollywood. Like it was a bit Netflix. It was like, let's pump 250 million into a movie here and let's pay everybody to say some unreal stuff about veganism. And because this guy wanted to prove a point. So like I understand that the point he was trying to prove, and he's probably correct for the point that he's trying to prove, but the documentary itself then was a bit like, relax a second, it's not going to change everybody's life. It might suit certain people better, and those people should consider veganism because it might be better for them. So just open that door, but it's like tarring everyone with the same brush, and like everybody's granny and cousin needs to be a vegan, but like it might not say, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to live a way better life. But for an athlete, it might mean that it could be better for them. But yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And just adding to the vegan pointings, I saw that it is very beneficial towards like people who have like very high cholesterol. It helps lower the risk of heart disease, because obviously like people who would be big red meat lovers would have a higher risk of heart disease and cardiovascular problems. But then in saying that, like there's pros, but there's also cons of like the deficiency of B12 and stuff like that. I just see.
He's licking his lips now.
Go on, yeah. What do you think about that? Like the way there is, like you can get deficiency, and I know you can say, oh yeah, you can just take a multivitamin, but surely if it's such a perfect diet, it would have everything you need in it. You know what I mean? Compared to a balanced
Ooh.
diet. Do you know
Yeah.
that's just the point? Do you get what I'm saying?
Fair point.
Yeah.
But also I think on the vegan point, not the vegan point, the B12,
Yeah.
it's well, B12 actually comes from like a bacteria in the soil and in the water. And beforehand, when we used to eat like vegetables that grow in the ground, and maybe from not washing it well enough, you would have some of that dirt go in your food, and then you would get that B12 right from your food. But nowadays, with all the chemicals we pour into our water to sanitize it, we kind of kill that bacteria that produces the B12. So even though like there's these advertisements that say that B12 comes from meat, it's actually we supplement animals with B12 so that when we eat animal products, the B12 kind of comes as a byproduct. So you can also cut just the middleman, instead of giving the B12 to the animals and then eating the animal to get the B12, you can just take the supplement and you still get the same benefits. And then so I think like what
could you not like sanitize the vegetables as much as we do and keep the B12 that is naturally found?
That's a good point, Dave. I was gonna
Yeah, that's a good question. But I would say probably with the all the mass production that we have to do nowadays, it's probably less doable.
The negatives
all,
outweigh the benefits, kind of.
yeah, all the pesticides and chemicals also that we use in agriculture nowadays. I think it's probably healthier and more safe for people if the system remains the same. I'm not very sure, but I think that's
yeah. So how many supplements do you take?
I take B12 supplement a few times a week, and I take vitamin D3 during the winter just because there's less sun, and if I'm inside studying all day outside for a long time, then I take vitamin D for a few times a week as well. But apart from
another thing, I just last thing that on the game changer. I felt it was and I never said it in my first point is they were saying that the like gladiators back in their day, they lived off of vegan food, like vegan food. Said they didn't eat meat, basically is what they were saying, or a lot of them were vegetarian and that. But they did some research on it there only I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, just like to kind of either add to evidence that they were vegans or to go against it, and they said that there's no actual proof that the gladiators had the vegan diet, because what happens is like the in the bones, like the whatever chemistry changes in it, and so it like comes out with different results over the years. So I didn't like that they were saying like these gladiators, the real strong like manly men kind of a thing. You could be that too kind of a thing is what I was kind of getting from the documentary, and it was a bit misleading that like nothing was said afterwards about it when proof came out that it's not entirely true.
Yeah, but I guess it definitely is kind of confusing because on both sides you have kind of conflicting evidence that comes from both sides of the argument. So especially with veganism, I think there's a big like trust of information issue because there's so many studies that come out saying, oh, veganism isn't as good as you think, and then on the other side there's like a lot of studies that show that veganism is like can be beneficial for a lot of people. So it can definitely be hard to find the truth and all that. But it is very interesting,
Yeah.
the gladiator study that they were talking about, and I'm not really sure how it all works, like
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, I get you.
stuff, but
Um, I've I want to touch on something there.
Mhm.
Adam brought up about the culture, and I know that you are not at all, because I wouldn't even touch you with a 10-foot pole if you were like that culture. So like,
Yeah, I didn't think you
what's
was.
your
Yeah,
yeah? So like, what's your
never
take?
do
Like,
that.
like if I was to talk about it, I vividly remember finding out you were vegan probably 6 months into knowing you, like around that stage, and it was purely out of just the flow of a conversation about food.
Yeah,
There was, I didn't, not once did you come up to me and was like, I'm vegan.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, really? And yeah, I'm vegan for 5 years, and I eat vegan food all day long. Like, you didn't once push it. You didn't tell me, oh, you should be vegan.
mhm,
Obviously, you're going to be like, listen to these facts, and like you give your side of things, but you're not trying to force it. You're not trying to push it. You're not trying to get attention. So like,
yeah.
what's your opinion on that kind of a toxic culture
Yeah.
that is associated with vegans and the whole shebang?
Yeah, I it's definitely like interesting because there's a whole spectrum of kind of activism styles within veganism. Some people, they go in the streets with signs and they really try and get their message out there. And I think I think as long as, everyone has their different method that they prefer, but for me, it's not really my style. Like I won't just push what I think on people because I also think that has a negative impact because when you try and push stuff onto people, they kind of go on the defensive and they don't really listen to you anymore. It's just like trying to
It's like, oh, I'm telling you what to do, and no one likes getting told what to do.
on not listening to understand what you're saying kind of thing. Um, Personally, I don't really have a problem against it. Um, because like I personally think that veganism is good in that it can be beneficial for a lot of people. It can be beneficial for the environment, for health, for the animals. So as for me, as long as it brings conversations about veganism, it can be positive. Um,
Yeah,
but
like I agree with the animal side of things.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you want to be an activist around the animal side of things, and even the climate change and that sort of stuff, I've no problem there. My problem, and I think Adam's quite similar, would be the people that just want the kind of the, what's the word? It's like it's a trend,
Yeah.
or it's kind of, I'm different because I'm vegan, and it's
Yeah.
cool and it's edgy, and I
yeah,
think, like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, that's a load of nonsense. So
yeah, and I think that there's still probably a lot of um, not really misconception, well, maybe misconceptions about veganism because veganism is actually more of like a moral standpoint. So if you're vegan, it's really more because you you don't think that how animals are treated in factories is right. So being vegan is taking a moral standpoint against the treatment of animals. Um, but if you're doing it more for health reasons or strictly for environmental reasons, you're more just shifting towards a plant-based diet because that's
mm,
essentially what you're doing. So if you're doing it for environmental reasons, you can eat a plant-based diet, but you can still wear a leather jacket and have a whole bunch of leather clothing and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just like how I would think of it as well, when I think about why another reasoning behind me being not being a vegan would be like we are omnivores as humans. We are omnivores. We like plants. We eat meat. I feel like that's just how we're made. I feel um digesting meat and stuff, like, well, chicken and stuff, more chicken than red meats. I feel the digestion behind that is a lot easier. I feel that's kind of I feel like that's what's naturally meant to happen for us as human beings, as we are omnivores. I feel that, you know, we should have a balance of a bit of everything in our diet, and I just find if I was to go vegan, I think I'd struggle with that aspect. You know what I mean? I think it's very. I think like hearing that you are vegan for 5 years now is actually crazy. Like, what's your immune system like? Is it strong?
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you be, you know, fit? Like, you seem,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
it's funny because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was I was trying to remember when the last time I can remember being sick was, and like just taking like an Advil or something, and I actually can't remember the last time I was I was actually fully sick. Like I can't go to school, I have to stay in bed all day.
Mm,
So I found that was interesting, and I understand the point of view you brought out about how humans are omnivores and we need to eat like a big variety and stuff. And
yeah.
I I used to think the same way before, but I also think it's interesting that when you look at the table of the leading causes of deaths for humans, it's heart disease, right? So cardiovascular heart disease, and I've looked at a bunch of studies, and some studies show that a vegan diet or a plant-based diet is the only diet that can not only stop but even reverse heart disease. So
Yeah,
the
I
number,
agree with that. Yeah, so
I think it's also interesting to think about if if humans were really made to eat meat, then why is it killing us, right? Because lions and like other carnivores and omnivores in nature, they eat meat, but they don't get heart disease from eating it because their bodies are probably more adapted or have
Because they're lions.
that. Well, like, there is a lot of other causes to heart disease and stuff, like people who like, and to like higher the risk of blood pressure and stuff is from like smoking, or just eating like very unhealthy over like long periods of time. But like, if you look at someone, say now our age, who plays sport and stuff, I see, looking at Dave there now, who is like me, eats a balanced diet. We don't kind of follow any other kind of diets like the carnivore diet, the vegan diet, paleo, whatever. um I just think he's developing. Like, I feel we developed
Aw.
well under under the balanced diet kind of circumstances. Like, so I agree that the fact that, yes, it can lower risk of heart disease and stuff, but a lot of other things cause heart disease, and it's not just the food we eat causing heart disease. Maybe it's a big factor, but it's not um you know the full reason why we get heart disease and that.
But if it is an element, wouldn't it be better to remove that element?
Well, you see, everything is good in moderation, in my opinion. Like, if you're,
You're so Irish.
why?
That's like such a, like, the Irish, well, a little bit of something will be fine. Like, once you don't
No,
have too
but
much.
you think like one cigarette a week would be okay?
sorry.
Like smoking one cigarette a week, do you think that would be okay?
No,
Like
what I'm saying is,
Good point.
if you do, yeah, that's a good point. But what I'm saying is, like it's not just eating causes, um uh,
Yeah, like, I obviously, I
disease,
get what you're saying. Like, because I have a steak there, I'm gonna drop dead on Friday. Like, it's not as extreme
No,
as that,
like,
or
it's
it's not.
moderation, 100%.
Yeah, and like, it's not like, if I eat steak, for 30 years, I'm not just gonna drop dead either. But
No.
like, it could, for some people across the board, if you take a sample of 1,000 people, and you who get heart disease or get some like related disease to that, and you look at their diet, would you find a pattern of red meat across the entire period of their lives? Would you find a pattern about them being very into different various, like, chicken, meat,
Yeah.
steak? Like, I don't know, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
it's also interesting like the application in health. Like if there's someone just waiting to die from a heart attack because their arteries are clogged because of like all, and they have like high cholesterol, high blood pressure. If a vegan diet or a plant-based diet predominantly can actually reverse all these factors and improve people's lives, like why shouldn't it be promoted and used as a medical tool? Like why shouldn't doctors, you know, tell their patients to go on a plant-based diet if it can reverse those symptoms and those illnesses, right? That's
No,
maybe,
yeah,
yeah, maybe it's not for everyone, because
I see your logic there. Yeah,
Yeah,
some
no,
people,
I think that's a great way of looking at things, because, like,
yeah, very
yeah,
interesting.
you don't need to be like a devoted diehard vegan, and not everyone needs to be one. But like, if a doctor can go to you and say, "Listen, just go on a plant-based diet for a year. Trust me, it'll kind of get you back on track." That's better than popping a load of pills or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And
exactly.
But
yeah,
if even just the reduction of the amount of, you know, meat
cutting
you,
back on
because
things,
you
yeah.
know, you know, everything too much of anything can harm you, literally. You know what I mean? You can overdose on vitamin C. You know what I mean? You can overdose on anything. Like, but what I'm saying is, like, you know, if you're eating, see, if you like doctors, well, like I know someone in my family who has type 2 diabetes, and a doctor didn't tell him to, oh, just become vegan, because I think that would be too aggressive of a move. I think it'd be too hard for people just to go, right, I live my 50 years on this planet eating everything kind of in the pyramid of foods, but this, from starting tomorrow, I'm gonna have to just eat vegan food. I feel like that is too hard of a stretch for someone to do.
Bit cold turkey, like.
Yes,
Yeah,
cold turkey. But what they do tell, you know, people or whatever, from what I heard, is, you know, just a reduction in, like, they hear what you have each day, they hear what you do, and you're like, okay, so you have red meats 4 days a week. Okay, let's drop that to 3. Let's drop it to 2. You know, take out this, take out that, and you're still eating the same foods, but it's also still lowering as well. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, and that definitely, and that's why I think the term just shifting towards a more predominantly plant-based diet is probably more, it's probably more widely accepted than just talking about a vegan diet, right? Because I think
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you talk about vegan in general, it's you're cutting out everything. Whereas, you know, a predominantly plant-based diet is more, it's more like just make sure you get more veggies into your diet, you know, more fruits, more veggies, more legumes, more beans, and then if you need, if you feel like you really need that piece of chicken, that steak, one or two or a few times a week, then you do that. But just make sure you know you get all your veggies and all that. And I
Yeah.
think, what was it, the new like food guide that the Canadian government remade, um was it last year or the year before?
I have no idea what you're on about.
I've no idea.
Oh, no, like, I don't know if you had that, but it's like a food guide. I don't know. It looks like a plate, and they're like,
Oh, are you
right.
saying like the
Oh,
food pyramid?
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
The basically like the standard what people should have for a healthy balanced diet.
Yeah, well, before it was heavily influenced by all the subsidies of all these companies, you know, the um, dairy companies and like meat companies and stuff. And then they remade it just based on the scientific literature, that the peer-reviewed literature. And if you look at it now, I think half of it is vegetables, whereas before I think it was more like a quarter, and then like half of it I think was meat, or it was like, it was.
yeah, carbs or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you just look at the difference between both of them, like the old one and the new one, I think it's interesting because there is also that shift towards just eating more plant-based food, basically.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another thing as well, what you were saying was that's interesting, is that like basically what you're saying is like a plant-based diet would be more applicable to more people rather than a vegan-based diet being more applicable. Um,
Yeah, even just the idea and promoting it also, because it
yeah,
seems
yeah.
restricting for a lot of
But
people.
I also think that's fair enough, because right now, as we're moving on, like you could swap out a lot of things for the vegan version, and like it wouldn't really, like if you want to have vegan pasta, or like I don't know what,
Pasta's already vegan, but
but don't you use eggs in pasta?
don't you use eggs in pasta?
Yeah, to make pasta, it's eggs, isn't it?
Well, it depends what kind of pasta, but
I don't know what Canadian pasta you're having, but I'm sure pasta is made through eggs, flour, and other stuff that I'm not Italian enough to know. But I'm sure there is vegan, like, so like, all right, whatever. Forget pasta. What's something else that bread or something? I don't know. Like, what's something that's just vegan that you could swap out? Like, what do you have that everyone else has, but you just have a vegan version?
ice cream. I don't know. Vegan ice cream.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like, why don't you just have a vegan ice cream instead of having normal ice cream, or like stuff like that?
Your egg scrambles or whatever. I use tofu instead, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
See, I think a big problem if they want people to change to become, more kind of vegan based, is the problem is the pricing of the foods. I feel it's not accessible for even a lot of, like, I'm not saying I'm freaking loaded or my family's loaded, but it's very expensive for tofu and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Compared to, the box of chicken or whatever you'd ever, you get. The problem is the pricing of everything, especially even like the reduced sugar stuff. Like, that's the problem. Like, why that's a huge problem, I think, is why there is so much people obese and stuff. Is because it's cheaper to buy a Mars bar than it is to buy a protein bar, or it's not true though. Like,
It is
just
like,
those changes. It's just a huge
no, but
problem.
like you go in and you look at a bottle of water and it's 150, and then you see a can of Coke for 125 or something like that, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I think it's
that is
too hard for the average person, I think, to, well, not too hard, but it's expensive.
It's a barrier to entry. It's a barrier to entry.
Yes. It's hard.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's definitely like a big system issue where how do you make healthy fresh food more available to people? And I think that also has a lot to do with subsidies, right? Because I think there's so much money that's pumped into the system because animal agriculture also is, I think, if you look at the stats, and like 90% of all subsidies that go into the whole agriculture industry goes towards animal farms and animal farmers, because
Probably 100% in Ireland. Let's be honest. Like you go outside your garden and there's a cow or something. Like there's going to be 100%
it's
money
just
being pumped into that. Like,
like for the farmers to make a living, they just need the subsidies to actually make profit and lower the price of the products. And I think that has a big
ooh,
so I think if a lot of these subsidies also went into making healthy foods more available by making them cheaper, that would also push people towards eating healthier and more plant-based and more diverse, and just in general.
Okay, I've that's very interesting. I've something that I want you to think about. Let's throw ourselves into your ideal fantasy world, right? Money's being pumped into all the lovely vegan stuff. There's vegan restaurants everywhere. It's fantastic. Everybody's not dying of heart
Who's working a
disease.
9-to-5 job?
It's beautiful, right? What's going to happen to the farmers? Where are they going to make their money? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I think there if there's that transition, there's still going to be the same amount of jobs necessary to grow all the crops, to
But
make.
that's for certain climates then.
What do you mean?
Like Ireland, we couldn't be growing oranges here. Like, you know what I mean? Like we've terrible weather. We've got potatoes and we've got cows and a couple of sheep here and there. Like, so what do we do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what grows in Ireland, but you definitely grow
A lot of
some of your.
potatoes.
Potatoes, corn, stuff like that.
Yeah, like a lot of you would grow obviously stuff, but like you wouldn't. It
And that's
would
just a
definitely.
huge amount that would go to nothing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there'd be so like I'd say you'd probably cut 65%, 70% of all like everything to do with farming, like as a whole.
Yeah. You
Like
got a huge chunk. Yeah.
like if you were to take farming as a general umbrella and you have like all of your crops, but then you also have your meat, like I'd say it's at least 50, like 60, 70% just completely gone once meat is gone.
I don't know. I think there would be, the same amount of jobs, but just it would be a different role. So maybe you're not, you know, maybe that farmer role won't be available, but there will still be more jobs like for maybe like crop transformation or like that sort of stuff, you know?
Mm.
So
And
instead of
it's
a field with cows or whatever, if you grow your corn and you still want to be a farmer, like you could still grow your corn, grow your soy, and also to touch on that, like I think there's a big issue with, I don't know what it's called in English, but is it like monoculture? Just massive fields with the same crop, like just growing.
oh yeah, where it's like the turnover and stuff, where they need to change the
Yeah,
fields and stuff. Yeah,
Crop rotation.
crop rotation. What was that in? We did that in school. What was that in?
Yeah.
That was history. That was history.
It was history. Like
Yeah,
of Irish, ancient Ireland. Yeah.
that was like plantations and all that stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
here, jeez.
Big throwback.
Throwback, miscellaneous history, third year. Jeez.
Big
Anyway,
shout
yeah,
out.
no, I know what you're saying. I read something about that actually. That there's a big it's big. Oh, what was it actually? There's there's like this thing like Farmer of the Year, some nonsense here in Ireland, something weird thing
I
like that.
wouldn't say that.
Oh come on.
Go on.
Oh, what? Someone's gonna comment. Ooh, you can't say that. Get off. All right.
Not nice.
Ooh, that's what's the word?
Okay, go
I'm
on and with
offended.
your point.
I'm
Yeah.
all right. Anyway, yeah, you're a female won it, which is like holy, like a female won Farmer of the Year. What? And the reason is that she invented some way of having like way less grass or like fields, but for more animals. So
Oh,
she
okay.
produced way more than most of or the same of the other people, but she had like 60 or like 20% less, 30% less of the actual field. And so that means that you could actually get more out of what you're dealing with, whatever she was doing. I don't know what the whole crop rotation business. So yeah, there's definitely something to look at there with the whole rotation of yeah.
yeah, and also going to like growing more stuff and talking about your Irish weather and climate. Um, I think there's also a big wave coming with more vertical farming. So in cities, using also with COVID and people working more from home, maybe all these big towers of just offices where people just go and work their 9 to 5 job
This
or
is
whatever.
like some Elon Musk stuff. Hold on. Yeah, okay, go on.
But if let's say there's a transition and less people need those offices and there's more buildings in the cities that can be used to grow crops. There's already buildings, vertical farms that are being used in several parts of
What?
the to grow like food in the city.
Up.
Yeah. So it's basically walking
It's
in.
like a huge tree that just goes all the way up.
No, it's not a tree, but it's like
Do they
it's like
use
when
elevators to get up to like, oh, we're going to the oranges on floor 200? Like,
I'm not sure about the oranges, but like you can grow a lot of like lettuce and like shorter
yeah.
like lettuce, probably tomatoes and carrots and stuff like that. In yeah, in like level,
Buildings.
yeah, in
That's
buildings.
crazy.
Yeah, so you can look into it after, but basically I if that kind of replaces farming, you would still need those jobs as well. So the whole point is just, I think there's going to be a transition with the, and there's still going to be probably the same amount of jobs available, but it would just be different, in a different context, in a different way.
Can I ask you a question now? You may just think there while you were chatting there. You know, if it was your ideal world, and you know, no animal, no cows or bulls, whatever, pigs were ever harmed in the process. What's the story with the life cycle of those animals? Do you think it'll overpopulate? Do you think if we just stopped eating cows now altogether, or, you know, pigs, whatever, do you think it'll overpopulate? Do you think it will, you know, increase in climate change? What do you think? What's your take there? Since, you know, if you look at, you know, a fox eats a rabbit, you know, a bigger thing eats a fox. You know, it's just, you know, the whole cycle. Yeah, the food chain, exactly. I don't know why it took me so long to say that. But yeah, what's your take on that? Do you think overpopulation will be a big problem? And also, just to add to that, if we did go completely vegan, do you think that cows and that would just be exported out of the country because we would build more places
out of
in
the
that
country, out of the world? Where would they go?
Yeah. Well, do you know what I mean? Like if they were to move and like
send them to Mars.
Places. Yeah, just send them out. But do you think that if
putting Teslas on the spaceship, just
yeah, just yeet them out of here. But do you think that we would just end up moving them or whatever, anyways, to put more buildings, because the land there is used to you know, for cows to eat, you know, the grass, and you know that cycle continues. But if that stopped and we're not eating cows, is there a point in having them on our, you know, on the land that we could put houses, we could put parks, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. And to touch on the what you said, the cycle of life, or the food chain thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because all the cows, the chickens, and the pigs that we kind of produce and that we grow and farm, we're still, you know, keeping them away from the rest of the wildlife. So I like, some farmers probably kill the wolves and like the other predators that come around their farm so that they don't harm their animals, right? Because that would harm the profit that they could make off of the animals. And I think if there was to be that switch to a more vegan lifestyle throughout the world, I think it would be a progressive change, right? So it would be based on offer and demand. So if less people buy it, they need to produce less. So gradually, we would just need to breed less animals, so that the animals globally would kind of drop down gradually. So it wouldn't be like,
it wouldn't be us walking in emptying a clip on a bunch of cows and then just leaving.
But
like,
isn't that just the same thing though? They're not just, the only difference there is just like it's the same thing in the kind of long run. Don't you think that less, like, oh, there's gonna gradually be less animals, less cows in Ireland or whatever over how many years it'll take? I don't know. But isn't that just like a bit of a contradiction that, you know, animals, like, they're going to be killed for a purpose, like in your sense that you're saying they're not being born.
I see what you're saying.
Do you get what I'm saying? Thank
you.
Would you know the word is
okay
better?
Yeah, well, hold on. I'll fill in here as a translator, because I've been to Canada. What he's saying is, right, veganism is all about like animal welfare and that. But if you're just going to breed less of them, isn't that like kind of just reversing? It's like Uno, like flip the card and here we go. Like,
yeah, but I don't think we would drive them down to like extinction. But I'm just saying, like, if we're just breeding animals for the sole purpose of like exploiting
killing them and eating them,
yeah,
then
so you'd have them as like proper wildlife, like they're just chilling in a field and no one goes near them and we don't care.
That's how they were before, and then through artificial selection and just breeding them, then we selected the traits that we wanted, the ones that were like the most tameable. We kept them. The ones that produced the most milk, that got bigger. We just selected for those traits and made them into the animals that they are today.
And we
But
pumped them full of steroids as well. Did you read
yeah,
about that? They were pumping trembling acetate
Not
was
cows,
actually
but
used.
bulls, yeah.
Yeah, trembling acetate was used on bulls and cows. Like, and then bodybuilders were like, here, let's have a bit of this stuff. Like, that's
Funny how,
crazy.
yeah, steroids came around. Yeah, go on anyway. That's another
Yeah.
topic altogether. But
That's another topic.
That's for the next podcast.
We'll bring you on for the next one when we do that.
Oh.
and I think, yeah, it would just gradually phase them out, and then probably we could reintroduce them slowly into the wild, and eventually just let them be. And as you said, just let them be a part of the natural cycle of life, and the food
If
chain.
I'm honest though, that sounds so good. Like, imagine you're just walking your dog and you just see a little goat, and he's just like, no, he's just doing his own thing. He's not in a little electric little fence that he gets hit by a buzz. Like, he's just roaming around.
I just don't see how it would work, though. Honestly, I'm not trying to be cynical or anything. I just don't think it would work.
Well, I think right now, looking at that, it's a bit like, it's a bit fantasy, like. But I think getting to that path, like in 100 years of like working towards it, I don't think it's completely out of reach of it. Like, it's not like we're trying to go to Neptune or whatever. Like, yeah,
definitely be an overnight thing, and probably not like in a month or in a few months, or it just
like a century.
Yeah.
So I'm not even lying. I think it would.
You'd be dead when you don't even care. You're just like, I don't care.
It's definitely time. And to go back, like on the point you made about the land, what would we do with all that space? And there was a study that was made, and they calculated all the total agricultural land that's available for human use. 83% of it is used just for animal agriculture. So obviously, if we remove animal agriculture and replace it with plant agriculture, then the study found that we could reduce the total land area that we're using by 75%. So that's an area the size, if I can remember correctly, it's like Australia, the European Union, the States, and China combined together, that we could free up, and that we could like rewild, we can grow forests back, and just let the wildlife come back to the state that it was before. So
yeah, that is interesting. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a very good, valid point you made. But if I'm looking at the typical, like not typical Irish, but like typical kind of way of thinking, like of a normal kind of meat eater or whatever you want to say, wouldn't you, instead of making that like kind of more for growing crops and stuff, wouldn't you think they go for something more profitable, like cars, like manufacturing car companies or something like that? Why would they go for down the plant route?
Because I think that perfectly ties us into climate change, and you're not going to want to build.
Yeah, go on, let's go.
Yeah, but I think if you're making that transition, you still have to produce the resources to feed the whole world, right? And I think that right now we're growing a lot of food that we're just feeding to animals to then eat the animals. So if again we just cut the middleman and and just take the growing and it to the whole population. Right now we could feed 10 billion people with the food that we're growing, but since we're pumping so much of it into the animals to then eat the animals, then we're just using a lot of resources and energy that's just going to waste, basically.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on Dragon's Den, and you sold me. I'm willing to invest. I'm willing to pump 250 million into this.
I was just about to say, that's no, you have clearly educated yourself in this topic, and you clearly looked at every
done your homework,
and you looked at it from another person's perspective, and no, I admire that.
He's not a typical blonde Californian vegan, like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, he's making some very valid and solid points and reasonings behind it, and I agree with that. I definitely think we should definitely like lower the mass amount of animals that we are murdering to put into shops and that,
and as well, I think the whole cows and the greenhouse gases, climate change that you know
And by
swiftly brings
reducing,
us into that. Yeah, by reducing all that, you know,
Uh,
lovely. What's the whole situation with climate change? So, Olivier, do you think it's a real thing? First of all, because we've got some people out there that
Alex
say, you know,
Jones.
it's a lot. We got people saying it's a load of nonsense.
Yeah.
No, I do believe in climate change. And
Obviously, yeah.
yeah,
Whoa, don't disrespect our viewers. Some of them want to think that there's not. Like, all right, so we leave them alone.
but yeah, no, I do believe in climate change, and I was fortunate, as you know, to be able to go in the Arctic and actually talk to people that experience it and kind of see it for myself. You know what's happening out there.
And you're on TV.
I was on
And you're on the news and you're on the radio and
Check
you're
out the
do
buzz on
talks.
this guy.
Yeah, look at him. Check this guy out. Here we leave his Instagram in the bio for our 20% female viewers, but you know, who cares?
but yeah.
Yeah, how did you find that experience?
Oh, it was really nice. It was honestly, I think what I got out of it the most was kind of more of a personal connection towards what climate change is, because I feel like it's easy from your house to learn about it, but going out and seeing it, meeting people that are actually affected by it, um, it just creates that much more of a connection towards
Mm.
what it actually is. You know, climate change, yeah, the temperatures rising, the sea levels rising, you know, species are going extinct, but what does it actually mean for people? And once you go, you know, in Nunavut, in Greenland, and you see the people, you see how their lifestyles are affected, you just can't.
Did you see any Eskimos?
Huh?
Did you see any Eskimos? Igloos and stuff?
Igloo? No, it was the summer, but I yeah, I met Inuit people, Sami.
That's so cool. Did they have like flutes and stuff? Like proper tribal, like, you
There
know.
it is.
I'm so stupid. Like like, yeah, you're saying, I'd love that you're saying it's, you know, you're separating it from being a geography essay in the leaving cert, which is our exams like in school, to being like, you know, a real life like scenario. What is the real life scenario for them? Like, how is it affecting them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's very remote, right? So when you go into a community, let's say in Nunavut, and we were highly encouraged to go into the grocery store just to see what was available. And again, the food situation is just unbelievable, because your fresh fruit, you know, a watermelon will cost you $75, right? Yeah,
75 bucks.
yeah, I took a picture actually of it, and it's just unbelievable, because
Fucking hell.
all the food, like we say our food's expensive, well then that food has to be transported through boat or through plane all the way up north to those communities, and so that just puts the prices right up. So
Jeez.
obviously they depend a lot on the land to survive and stuff, and especially travel within communities, a lot of them wait for the ice to come to travel between communities. You know, I met someone on the expedition with us. He was you know, he had his own team of dogs, you know, um,
Like a
and a
pack.
lot, yeah, a lot of people have them. You know, they have their sled dogs, and that's how they travel between communities. But if the ice is too thin, there's the number of people that go out and never come back because they fall into the ice is actually going up. And let's say for Inuit people that have to go, you know, they go hunting and go fishing because they need that they need that you know that source of food to survive. Well, it was interesting because I was talking to some people and they said that before the ice was so thick, they literally had to carve stairs going down into the ice to get to the water. And now they
That's
don't,
so cool.
like, they only have to carve maybe 40, 50 centimeters into the water. So, you know, in one person's lifetime, there's already that massive difference. And then we also went, um, we walked, you know, on glaciers, and there was this one place I remember. We came from the water, and then we walked, you know, a few kilometers to get to the start of the glacier. But a few decades ago, that glacier went all the way into the water. So that's just that. It's just all those experiences and those images that you see that really make you understand what's going on right now and what people aren't seeing.
So what do we do about it?
I'm just about to ask.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough question, and it's not you know, people won't agree on the answers. And I would personally say that I honestly think going on a plant-based lifestyle is probably the single biggest way, or the single biggest thing that anyone can do to reduce their impact that they have on the environment. Obviously, using your bike or walking more, or getting a reusable water bottle, having a metal straw or like a bamboo straw or whatever. Those are small changes that do help, but it's definitely not enough. So I think
What about buying a Tesla? You know,
that's
If you have
interesting
the
too.
money.
I think electric cars right now are, there's like the curve where at the beginning they're actually there's more pollution coming from them than from a gas car. And then after, I think it's like 80,000 kilometers, that's when your electric car becomes, better for the environment. But before then, the gas car is still.
but we're hitting that point more now with more electric cars out there, and more. It's like becoming more the norm. So we're hitting that kind of threshold.
But yeah, but it's also a tough question because electric cars, there's so many metals going into the batteries and stuff that you have to extract from the ground. And then there's also the question of how these people are treated in the countries where those metals are extracted. So it's definitely a very complex
Issue.
situation.
Yeah.
Could I want to just ask there if you
No,
think by us all going to going into a vegan diet, that's the best way we can help. But do you not think if we all go vegan, do you not still think that the mass production of Ireland is
Wi-Fi cut. Oh my god, typical Adam.
that good old Ireland
has
Wi-Fi.
a huge carbon
You
footprint?
you
It's one
just
of the
cut out.
biggest,
Whoa, Adam.
the factories. Yeah.
Adam,
Hello.
your Wi-Fi there just did a complete somersault.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but repeat what you just said.
Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
said, where was it? I'll just start. What
Yeah.
I said. Well, my point was, do you not think if we yeah, there's one thing we could all go vegan. I sound so anti-vegan, but do you not think even if we all went vegan, isn't there still a huge amount of factories in there? Like it's one of the biggest carbon footprints in Europe. It's and do you not think it's more to do with the factories that are in Ireland than actually the diets are of what we're eating in Ireland?
I mean, like factories of like producing stuff. And
Yeah.
So, like, are you saying that, like, if you were to put it in the hierarchy of importance, you don't think your diet is as high in the hierarchy as maybe factories
Compared
and other
to
things?
factories, cars, I think they're way big of an importance than a single, like, from, I know a huge amount of people together, but would change that. But isn't that more down to the factories? Like if we were all reproduced electric cars, it'd be a different story. Well, compared for the first 80 kilometers, it would be. But I think the if we all went vegan, I don't see it making a huge impact due to just due to the fact of how much carbon emissions there is from the factories in Ireland. I don't think by us all going vegan is going to help hugely compared to the factories. If I was to rank it, I would say the factories are a huge point and the cars then, and
I would disagree.
you would say it's the diets.
I'm not here to just be a complete
No,
vegan
yeah,
here,
no,
but I think I think you'd be very surprised at the amount of gases that are emitted through the entire process of having like you know, plant or not plant-based stuff, so like cows and meats and like that whole situation. Like I think cows, if you looked up the facts, if we only had Jamie there to pull up the facts, like, but like cows and their emissions for greenhouse gases is, I'm sure, ridiculous. And I think if
methane that they release instead of CO2, which is probably from a lot of factories more CO2 instead of methane. Methane
yeah,
is
so
more.
is methane worse?
Yeah.
Methane, yeah. More methane.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you know, that's something to look at.
I see. I never looked at that side of things, but
Mm.
would you still not think the factories would have
No,
a
I
larger
think
part
I
of-
think factories 100% are up there with like having a big. I think they all have a big issue, but I think if what's the one thing that someone can do straight away,
Well,
like
yeah,
with
personally, you can obviously
yeah,
change your diet and
so
whatever.
like the one thing someone can do that you can control, like I can't go in there and can like demolish a factory,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I can stop eating meat if I wanted to, or like reduce it anyway. So yeah.
And I think, yeah, just I agree with Dave on that one. It's once you start to look at the whole process, you know, growing the crops, all the water you have to use, and then growing that crop, the machinery you have to use to get it, to transform it, and then you transport it to the farms, and then feed it to the animals, and then after then you take care of the animals. There's more water use, and then you transport the animals to the factories, and then transform that after you kill them and stuff, and then just the whole process. I think they calculate it, it's like close to 15% of all greenhouse gas emissions comes from animal agriculture, which is, it's more than all the transportation across the world
Very
together.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's why we got him on, Dave.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, Jesus, he's like a encyclopedia on veganism
Yeah,
and methane.
he's a vegan Wikipedia page.
Genie. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
But yeah,
I think
Something to think about, like personally, what you
Yeah.
could do. Like
yeah, on a personal basis, I would say that's probably the biggest thing. But there's something called, it's the Drawdown Project, and it's a bunch of scientists that came together to make a list of the 100 most solutions, the most effective solutions towards
I
that.
heard about this.
And I think adopting a plant-based diet is number 4 on the global list, but it's the first one that's easily individually applicable, right? So it's the easiest thing that someone can do as an individual to have an impact, to have like an immediate impact. And then above that, I think in third place, it's just reducing global food waste, because 30% of all the food that we grow goes in the garbage and is lost. So, but that's more of like a systemic thing.
Yeah, with the overproduction of things.
Last question. No, like, how do you think veganism should be promoted? How do you think we should get to the stage of, you know, getting more people involved?
Yeah, so like, you've given the problem. What's the solution? You know what I mean? Like,
pen kind of a thing.
yeah. So like, are you going into schools? Are you going into workplaces? Are you putting on TV ads? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good point though. The TV ads, I think there needs to be a better representation of all the.
You should hop on, definitely.
Like, I mean, you have your McDonald's ads on TV, and you have like your fast food ads on TV. Why can't you have your, you know, your vegan family ad, you know, just showing that, you know, a woman
That would be so funny. I would laugh so bad if you were sitting there and you're watching the TV and you just see like the family. Hey, Dad, what are we having for dinner tonight? We're having some red bell peppers and some like quinoa or whatever. And they're just sitting there. Oh,
but just, you know, making it more mainstream and making it more accessible, you know, just getting it out there that, you know, a woman that's pregnant can be vegan, a child, or like an old person, like anyone can be vegan, and it can be perfectly healthy if you're, you know, if you're taking care of things. And then definitely at school, there's a lot of things that should be changed at school.
Yeah.
Um, definitely in health class and stuff, that
Like
should
PE.
conversation.
Yeah.
You just made me think of food, dudes. What a great time in primary school in
Yeah,
Ireland.
in Ireland there's this thing in primary school, and it's called Food Dudes, and they basically were like, we want you to eat more vegetables, so they just got like little packets of stuff, and it wasn't that nice because it was packaged, and but I saw what they were trying to do. I saw what they were trying to do. One thing there actually, Jordan, do you ever see Jordan Peterson talk about climate change? He was asked about climate change.
I don't think I have, no.
You know Jordan Peterson though?
I have some of his books, yeah.
Did you read? Yeah, you were. Hey, this guy, right? You read 12. What is it? 12 Rules for Life.
I haven't finished it, but yeah, I'm reading it.
Jeez, when you get off this call, finish reading that book. Someone asked him, they're like, climate change, like, what do we do about it? And he was like, obviously there's climate change, but he was like, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. He was like, it's such a big issue. Like, am I going to be there? Like, stop using your iPhone, and like, you can't drive, and you start taking all of these things that humans in general are like, like they want. And he's like, yes, it's such a idealistic, perfect scenario to solve it, but it's just never going to happen in real life scenario. And he said that he brought up other stuff about there's actually more trees now than there was in the northern hemisphere than there was before, like 100 years ago or whatever. And
no, definitely. And I think it definitely is a combination of individual effort and governmental and systematic change. And it's hard to tackle climate change if you don't have both, because governments can put policies in place as much as they want. If people don't want to follow them, they won't follow.
Exactly.
If the people don't want to do it, then the government won't do it because they need the support of the people. So it's this whole
the vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Of just who's gonna make that first step, towards the change that's needed. And I think there is some change happening. Definitely not quickly enough,
but it's definitely happening.
Definitely, yeah. There's some stuff.
I noticed it in Canada more than here, and I know you're looking there in Canada saying probably, oh, this is the worst thing ever. But if you actually went to Ireland and you saw, like, imagine Adam going to Cork City and going like, I'm vegan, I need to get some food. What are you gonna do? Like, there's not a restaurant in sight. There's
McDonald's
like, you know what I mean? Like, whereas if you're in Canada and you're like, here, I need something vegan, you've got, what's that place, Pyro? Isn't there, like, there's a good few of those around. Yeah, there's a couple of sushi bars that you float around, you'll hop in, you get your avocado sushi, like whatever.
That's the one thing though as well, like, I don't really like it, is that you can buy vegan food in a very well established fast food chain. You know what I mean? You can buy a vegan burger inside McDonald's, but it's been slapped on the same table as a beef one. You know what I mean? So I feel very sorry for vegan people in that sense. You know what I mean? To get that kind of, I just don't understand that. But I agree. And listening to you now is definitely make me think of a different perspective, and I hope the people listening will kind of see a different side of things as well, because you're definitely changing my thoughts on veganism and kind of idea behind it. It's quite an interesting topic, and as the saying goes, don't knock till you try it, I suppose. But I've never ever tried my life. I never in my life tried to go vegan or anything. But it's definitely worth. I think it's definitely worth a.
I think give it a bash.
Give it a bash. I feel like the first week it would be the hardest thing ever. I don't see me making it alive.
Oh yeah. I'd be craving I'd be watching YouTube videos of Japanese Wagyu beef. I'd be like, oh. No, but actually Japanese, that's interesting as well. Their culture is very more, pescatarian, isn't it? More fish based and plant based in that sense.
A lot of Asian
culture. Yeah. So yeah, I like, even if we shifted to like a more Asian
Vegetarian-
style, like, yeah,
vegetarian
where
kind of
we're
style,
just
yeah.
like, into more of that stuff and we're healthier as a, but yeah, Olivier, fantastic
Yeah, this has
talking to
been
you.
brilliant. Yeah.
This has been a brilliant episode, and thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting
This
me.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Olivier.
we'll wrap this one up.